The COVID-19 pandemic is presenting unique challenges to the protection of human rights around the world, including the Asia Pacific region. Pandemic related racism, xenophobia, hate speech, and discrimination are reportedly on the rise in the region and to need to be countered with robust efforts to promote the fundamental freedom of expression and association, provisions of targeted support for vulnerable groups, and equitable and meaningful implementation of socio-economic rights across the region. This short-term post focuses on the importance of ensuring a right-based approach to all disasters, including the COVID-19 pandemic. It will highlight the key human rights issues that have emerged and offer policy advice and recommendation to combat all form of discrimination and human rights abuses. Now we move on to the formal session of inaugural meeting. Now I invite Dr. K. Meena, IQAC coordinator of our college, to welcome each and everyone. Ma'am, please. Meena, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. Yes. Yes.
Good afternoon to all of you who are virtually connected here. Respected Madam Principal, Resource Person, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, MP Lok Sabha, Dr. A.M. Sridharan, Director UGC HRDC, Kannur University, Kerala, organizers of this program, academicians and students. I'm immensely happy that the IQAC and IIC of Sree Ayyappa College for Women have succeeded in organizing a short-term program on human rights in collaboration with UGC HRDC, Kannur University, Kerala. As IQAC coordinator, Sree Ayyappa College for Women, I deem it a pleasure and privilege to introduce the eminent resource person, Dr. Shashi Tharoor. For the faculty of our college, it is a God-sent blessing and a dream come true. On several occasions, we try to bring this multifaceted, charismatic personality, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, to our campus. Today, we feel a sense of achievement as Dr. Tharoor fulfilled our dreams through the webinar. Truly speaking, he needs no introduction. Sir, I can only record on this auspicious occasion our adoration for you. We bow in respect before your erudition, humility, and literary caliber, which has enabled you to straddle different arenas. This dedicated politician of Congress Party has been elected 3 times from Thiruvananthapuram constituency as Member of Parliament of Lok Sabha. He was Minister of State for External Affairs and Human Resource Development. During Kofi Annan's leadership from 2002 to 2007, he was Secretary General of United Nations. These are all his credentials as administrator and politician. Sir, you have left an indelible impression upon the people with your creative writings on our beloved country, India, glorifying its history, culture, politics, and society. Your classic novels, Operation Bellows, The Great Indian Novel, India from Midnight to the Millennium, and Era of Darkness stand testimony for the scripturient latent in you. Your verbal prowess and rich vocabulary makes us awestruck and spellbound. My mind gets transported the school days when I was taught the longest word in English from Shakespeare's Love's Labour's Lost, that is, honorificably to the hadibus, the state of being able to achieve honors. What is the secret behind your voluminous vocabulary? You have openly admitted on several occasions that you had some advantages over all of us. I quote, I lived in India without television, without computers, without PlayStation, and without mobile phone. And all I had were books and I have read extensively. Really, I have a fear of your new words when I am making an attempt to pronounce them. Hippopotomonstrosescupidaliophobia, Flossinosi nihilipilification, Sesquipedalian gonzo, Mualia britti, Rhodomontade, and so on. His inimitable and unimitated sweet smiling icon of knowledge is a legend. On behalf of all the organizers of this program, I accord a warm welcome to you, sir. It's my proud privilege to welcome Dr. A.M. A.M. Sridharan, Director UGC HRDC, Kannur University, Kerala. I thank you, sir, for extending your support for conducting this program. Impact of this program has increased manifold only due to the collaboration with Human Resource Development Center, Kannur University, Kerala. My special appreciation to Dr. Meera, Assistant Professor, SAC, who is instrumental in giving us this opportunity to interact and learn from great minds. I welcome all the participants and I hope you will have a wonderful and informative experience. Once again, I welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It's my proud privilege to request our Madam Principal, Dr. K.V.J. Sree, to deliver the presidential address. Ma'am, please.
Respected Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Lok Sabha MP, Chairman of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on External Affairs, former Central Minister and Under Secretary General of the United Nations, and Dr. Sridharan Sir, Vice Chancellor of UGC HRDC University, and other dignitaries, participants, good afternoon all to the short-term program on human rights. Human rights, as said by Mother Teresa, are not a privilege conferred by government. They are very human beings. They are every human being's entitlement by virtue of his humanity. They can never be taken away, although they can sometimes be restricted. The importance of human rights and the requirement to respect everyone's right are based on the notion of human dignity. Therefore, human dignity is considered to be the foundation of human rights. It was only after the two world wars the idea of human rights was established in the international and a formal document, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It has come to occupy a pivotal place in international national policy considerations. However, despite the increased focus on human rights, the reality of the day is too much emphasis, too much violation. Though the stringent enforcement of laws, collective efforts by the government, the active participation of media and the human rights agencies, the human rights scenario world over is posed with various challenges. Because for a larger section of the society, human rights are still an abstract concept. In this scenario, the importance of human rights education occurs increased importance. It assumes potential significance in transforming human rights issues into reality. The Constitution of India guarantees civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights to all the sections of the society without any kind of discrimination. However, due to poverty, customary, and cultural practices prevalent in the country, equal opportunity has been denied to various categories of people that have prevented them from enjoying their rights equally at par with other sections of the society. To get tangible result against human rights violations is to deal the problem with a three-dimensional approach. They are knowledge, that is provision of information about human rights and mechanism for their action, promotion of human rights culture, and action, that is encouragement to take prompt and firm action to defend human rights abuses. In this backdrop, in order to disseminate human rights education, which assumes potential significance in human rights transforming the reality, the short-term course on human rights organized by IQAC and IAC of Sree Ayyappa College of Human, jointly by HRDC, Kannur University, and endeavor to provide an ideal platform for dissemination of knowledge, spread awareness regarding the importance of multifaceted concept of international human rights laws among the youth and academia, and also to promote a culture for the cultivation of human rights and educating the citizens. Culture in the sense inculcating the value of enjoying one's own freedom without overlapping others' freedom. When this happens, it is called violation of human rights. On behalf of the entire team of this program, I express my sincere gratitude to one and all for joining with us through this online platform to make this program a success. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your kind words. Now I invite Dr. Anita, Assistant Professor of History and one of the coordinator of this program, for introducing the course. Ma'am, please.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Good afternoon to one and all joined here with us, respected dignitaries, faculties, and other participants. Welcome to the inaugural ceremony of the 7 days Human Rights Program. Human rights are rights we have simply because we exist as human beings. They are not granted by any state. Human rights are inherent to all human beings, regardless of race, sex, nationality, ethnicity, language, religion, or any other status. Human rights include the right to life and liberty, freedom from slavery and torture, freedom of opinion and expression, the right to work and education. Everyone is entitled to these rights without discrimination. Human rights are inalienable. They should not be taken away except in specific situations and according to the due process. The Internal Quality Assurance Cell and Institutions Innovation Council of Sree Ayyappa College for Women is pleased to conduct the 7 days short-term program on human rights with UGC HRDC, University of Kannur, Kerala. We are very proud to collaborate with UGC HRDC, Kannur University. Many of our faculty to visit UGC HRDC, Kannur University for our courses and return with happiness and later. The aim of this program is to create awareness about the denial of human rights in the present scenario and how to confront the challenges emanating from such situations and lead successful lives. Before conclude my words, going to a quote of a great person, Nelson Mandela. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate. If they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally in human hearts than its opposite. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. We are very proud to collaborate with the UGC HRDC, Kannur University, Kerala. We are here today, the most simple and exemplary director, sir, Dr. Sridharan, with us for the felicitation. Sir, please.
എല്ലാവർക്കും നമസ്കാരം. Most respected Member of Parliament and eminent writer, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, and other dignitaries attending this inaugural session. On behalf of Kannur University, UGC HRDC, I express my sincere gratitude towards the authorities of Ayyappa College for organizing this joint academic venture and wish all success to this program. This 1 week long webinar on human rights going to be inaugurated by the most respected Member of Parliament, Sri Shashi Tharoor, who has made timely, prominent interventions for redefining the aspects of human rights in this post-globalized society. Friends, in simple terms, human rights are the minimal rights which every individual must have for his dignified existence from the very moment of his birth, irrespective of any consideration. It is primarily the responsibility of the state to recognize, promote, and protect human rights. It is a dynamic concept which adapts itself to the needs of the day. It changes with the march of history. For this reason, the definition depends upon the conditions and the opinions prevailing in the given society. Friends, the modern human rights era can be traced to struggles to end slavery, genocide, discrimination, and government oppressions. Modern activists and scholars called for a declaration to protect the most basic fundamental rights and human freedom. According to them, ensure that the human being will be able to fully develop and use human qualities such as intelligence, talent, and conscience, and satisfy his or her spiritual and other needs. Human rights are not just theoretical. They are recognized standards to which governments are to be held accountable. Under human rights treaties, government have primary responsibility for protecting and promoting human rights. Governments are not solely responsible for ensuring human rights. Every individual and every organ of society shall strive by teaching and education to promote respect for these rights and freedom. And by progressive measures, national and international, to secure their universal and effective recognition and observance. I think this 7-day-long discussion on various aspects of human rights are most relevant in the present cultural scenario. I express my sincere thanks to Ayyappa College authorities for a joint platform, creating a joint platform for the discussion. Once again, I wish all success for this program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your acceptance, for collaboration and felicitation. I'm profusely overjoyed to take this opportunity to introduce our most respected chief guest. He is none other than the most renowned, accomplished writer, politician, and former international civil servant. Shashi Tharoor studies several worlds of experience. Currently, a third-term Lok Sabha MP representing the Thiruvananthapuram constituency and chairman of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Information Technology. He has previously served as the Minister of State for Human Resource Development and Minister of State for External Affairs in the Government of India. During his nearly 3-decade-long career at the United Nations, he served as a peacekeeper, refugee worker, and administrator at the highest level, serving as Under Secretary General during Kofi Annan's leadership of the organization. Dr. Shashi Tharoor is the best-selling author of 21 books, both fiction and non-fiction. He has won numerous awards, including the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman, a Commonwealth Writers' Prize, and the Crossword Lifetime Achievement Award. In 2019, Dr. Tharoor was also awarded the Sahitya Akademi Award in the category of English non-fiction for his book, An Era of Darkness. Today, we are very privileged to have an opportunity to listen to Sir's inaugural address. Let me invite Dr. Tarul Sir to inaugurate the short-term program and deliver the inaugural address. Sir, please.
Thank you all very much, and I'm very happy to join the students and the administration of the Sree Ayyappa College for Women this afternoon to inaugurate the new course on human rights that you have jointly developed with the UGC Human Resource Development Center at Kannur University. It was good to hear all of you a little before. The issue of human rights is certainly one that's close to my heart, and a topic that I previously engaged with, not merely as an abstract concept, but one whose realities I find myself actively dealing with in my work during my nearly 3 decades of the UN, and now in my capacity as a member of Parliament. At the same time, listening to all of you saying what you've said just now, and of course, in inaugurating this short 7-day course on human rights, I'm struck once again by the timeliness of this approach, because we are living at a time where the very concept of certain inalienable rights guaranteed to all human beings has been fundamentally challenged across the world. I'm struck by how we've all gathered around this webinar just a few days after the announcement by Amnesty International, one of the foremost global champions of human rights, that they would cease their operations in India because they're now unable to fund them as a result of a concerted effort by the ruling dispensation to clamp down on their activities. This is a development that should concern all of us for a number of reasons, because it offers a grim reflection of yet another instance where the concept of human rights has been undermined by the powers that be, and also because as Indian citizens, it undermines our standing in the world as a liberal democracy with a credible record on human rights. But this is not the first instance of human rights violations we've seen in the recent past. Across the country, whether it's in Kashmir, where our fellow citizens have suffered the ignominy of a clampdown for over a year, or Uttar Pradesh, where unspeakable horrors have been perpetrated by individuals, by the police, by the state alike, and the truth has been cremated in the darkness. Maharashtra, where electoral calculations have resulted in the targeting of individuals on frivolous grounds. Even in Delhi, where I speak to you from today, where the government has used its majority to pass legislation with grim implications for human rights. All of these suggest that the fundamental assault on human rights continues to grow every single day in our country, especially when the state and its institutions willfully abdicate their constitutional responsibility for upholding these rights. But this is not a problem isolated to India alone. As the very foundations of democracy weaken across the world with the rise of populist, far-right, authoritarian regimes, these regimes are finding themselves aiding the resurgence of xenophobic politics, of anti-immigrant sentiments, of an accentuation of systematic racism, of the direct enabling or of mounting inequality, of an erosion of the autonomy of free institutions that can offer a check and balance on governments, and of course of a clampdown on dissent, as well as a refusal to sanction the violators of human rights. All of this has resulted in a fundamental challenge to human rights across the world. And this is precisely why it is all the more important for us to engage with the concept of human rights in a serious way, to educate college students at Sree Ayyappa and at Kannur on these principles and values, to understand how these were developed, how these have been implemented within our society and other societies, and how we as concerned citizens can further develop these rights and make sure that they are upheld with rigor. I'm therefore pleased that you are inaugurating this course today. We are inaugurating this course, and it's my hope that this course will not just engender a greater appreciation for the values that human rights offer, but will help bring up new voices and new champions for human rights in our society, which sorely needs them. Now, due to the paucity of time, because unfortunately I have another engagement at 1, I will try and engage with just one specific aspect of the global discourse on human rights, which has been the subject of so much contention. Contention that comes in the form of a simple question: are human rights universal? Even in today's globalizing world, the question as to whether human rights is an essentially Western concept, which ignores the very different cultural, economic, and political realities of the global South, persists. It's often been used even by government people in attacking Amnesty International. So it's not an old question. Can the values of the consumer society be applied to societies that have nothing to consume? Isn't talking about universal human rights rather like saying that the rich and the poor both have the same right to fly first class and to sleep under bridges? Don't human rights, as laid out in the international covenants, ignore the traditions, the religions, the socio-cultural patterns of what used to be called the Third World? These are the questions that have been asked for the last 30 years in the international system, and they're anything but an abstract debate, because a number of serious objections have been voiced to the concept of universal human rights, which its defenders, and perhaps there will be some students in this course who will defend these human rights, will need to acknowledge honestly, if only to be able to refute them more effectively. The first objection argues that all rights and values are defined and limited by cultural perceptions. There is no universal culture, therefore there are no universal human rights. Some philosophers object that the concept of human rights is founded on an individualistic view of human beings, man as an autonomous being whose greatest need is to be free from interference by the state. In other words, this is a right, human rights are for people who say we want the right to be left alone. Whereas non-Western societies often espouse a communitarian ethic that sees society as more than the sum of its individual members and considers duties to be more important than rights. I am because we are. That is the concept that is opposed to the Western concept of human rights. Then there is the usual North-South argument. Human rights allegedly are cast as a cover for Western intervention in the developing world. Developing countries, some also argue, cannot afford human rights since the tasks of nation building and economic development remain unfinished. Suspending or limiting human rights thus sacrifices the few to benefit the many. Other objections to specific rights to human rights say there are some specific rights which reflect Western cultural bias. The most troublesome in some Islamic countries are women's rights. How can women's rights be universal, they ask, when in some societies marriage is seen not as a contract between two individuals, but as an alliance between lineages, and when the permissible behavior of women is central to a society's perception of familial honor. That's why we hear about honor killings in some Islamic countries. And indeed, we're hearing echoes of that in India too. In addition, some religious leaders argue that human rights can be acceptable only if they are founded on transcendent values of faith and thus sanctioned by God. They say there is a built-in conflict between the universality of human rights and the particularity of religious perspectives. How do we respond to these objections? Concepts of justice and law, of legitimacy and dignity, of protection from oppressive rule, and participation in community affairs, I would argue, are found in every society. The challenge facing human rights advocates is to identify the common denominators and not to throw up their hands at the impossibility of universalism. These objections reflect a false opposition between the primacy of the individual and the paramountcy of society. Culture is too often cited as a defense against human rights by authoritarians who crash and crush culture whenever it suits them. Besides, which country can claim to be following its pure traditional culture? Not even, for all the talk about Bharatiya Sanskriti, not even India. You cannot follow the model of a modern nation state, cutting across caste, cutting across tribal boundaries, conventions, and then argue that old traditions of caste or tribe should be applied to judge the state's human rights concept. and conduct, because there's nothing sacrosanct about the culture anyway. Culture constantly evolves in any living society, responding to both internal and external stimuli. Societies outgrow and reject much in every culture. So let's concede that yes, child marriage, female circumcision, and the like are not found reprehensible in some societies. But let us also ask the victims of these practices how they feel. Where coercion exists, rights are violated. And these violations must be condemned, whatever the justification in tradition or culture. My argument is that coercion, not culture, is the test. Once you have to force someone to do something, you are violating her rights. As for religion, every religion embodies certain verities that are applicable to all mankind. Justice, truth, mercy, compassion. And we face it, men often allow God to be blamed for their own sins. As my former boss, mentor, and friend, the late UN Secretary General Kofi Annan put it, the problem is never with the faith, but with the faithful. As for suspending human rights in the interest of development, we all know that authoritarianism promotes repression, not development. Development is about change, but repression prevents change. Though there may be cases where authoritarian societies had some success in achieving economic growth, many poor democracies, a country like Botswana, an exemplar of African democracy, have grown faster than most authoritarian states. Indeed, India has grown fast under the coalition governments and the democracy that was avidly promoted by the UPA government, whereas its growth rate has plummeted under the increased autocracy that we are seeing in power in Delhi today. A number of countries associated with the global south, China, Chile, Cuba, Lebanon, Panama, and of course our own India, played an active and influential part in drafting the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So we cannot say that we had no voice. Our voice was heard. The principles of human rights have been widely adopted, imitated, ratified by developing countries. So one cannot suggest that these rights have been imposed on developing countries. So when one hears of the unsuitability or ethnocentrism of human rights, then what are these human rights that someone in a developing country can supposedly do without? Is it the right to life? Is it freedom from torture? Is it the right not to be enslaved, not to be physically assaulted, not to be arbitrarily arrested, imprisoned, or executed? No one actually advocates the abridgment of these rights, but when they decry human rights, these are the rights that they all violate in their own countries. And I must say that culture is a very weak argument. Does wearing a traditional dress entitle a man to beat his wife? I have a real problem with this kind of defense of culture. Objections to the applicability of human rights standards are all too frequently voiced by authoritarian rulers and power elites to rationalize violations that keep them in power. Just as the devil can quote scripture for his purposes, so also developing country communitarianism can be the slogan of a deracinated tyrant. It should be the responsibility of all of us who are interested in human rights to look beyond the noise and to really find those voices that are in pain, individuals and communities that are genuinely in distress or disenfranchised, and to help them overcome these challenges and lead an empowered life as they deserve. I do not presume for a moment that it will be easy. But perhaps that's where courses such as the one we are inaugurating today can play a pivotal and guiding hand that trains young minds in not just the history of human rights, not just the theory of human rights, but contextualizes human rights among the real world, real-time realities that each of them is living, and that none of us as conscientious members of society can afford to forget. Today, when I joined Rahul Gandhi and Congress leaders in going to UP to protest the violation of human rights of a young woman who was raped and murdered and then cremated after dark by the police, I will be essentially saying human rights is not a theory, it applies to your lives, it is being violated in the present. Let me therefore conclude my remarks by wishing the administration of Sree Ayyappa College and the students who are taking this course the very best for this course. I hope all of you will benefit in your daily lives from the teachings it has to offer. Remember, human rights are not just theory, they apply to you. Thank you very much. I'm happy to formally declare this course inaugurated. Jai Hind.
It was really an enriching talk, sir. Thank you for this great presence and lecture. For moderating the question answer session, I invite Dr. Janata, Assistant Professor of English. Ma'am, please. Janata, ma'am.
I'm sorry, there's been a bit of a time constraint. I was told 12:30 to 1 was my half an hour. I'm already late for my next event, and in fact, I have to be at the headquarters. So I thank you all very much. I'm sure the very...
So shall I pass on to the formal vote of thanks, sir, then?
I will have to leave you. Have to leave. I suggest that others might address the questions. I would have loved to have been with you, but I was told I could leave at 1 and I have to leave now.
Yeah.
My many apologies. Thank you.
So then I will.
Okay, vote of thanks പറഞ്ഞോളൂ ജനതേച്ചി.
Sir illale poyalle.
കുഴപ്പമില്ല പറഞ്ഞോളൂ.
So this is something disappointment for me because I was waiting for this great moment to thank Dr. Tharoor, because let us be grateful to the people who make us happy. My heart brims with happiness to thank all the kind-hearted who were holding hand in hand with us for the conduct of this 7 days short-term program. I thank Lord Almighty for giving such a wonderful opportunity for us to conduct this program. And this is, for me, every hour is grace. And I feel gratitude in my heart each time. There is someone who brings happiness in our face. I have to thank Dr. Tharoor, because this is the second time I had been here seeing Tharoor speaking to us. And that was in July 2012. I had one cherishable moment in human rights, that is HRDC, Karyavattam University. He came there to speak on human rights, and that was the one moment. And this time, this is really, really a disappointment for me, because I was waiting for this precious hour to thank Dr. Tharoor, because for the past 8 years, I have been trying to bring Dr. Tharoor to the portals of Sree Ayyappa College for the department, our own English department seminar, and I couldn't make it. And so this is the time I should thank my colleague, my friend, Dr. Meera and her husband, Advocate Sudhir, for making this dream event happen in the virtual portals of Sree Ayyappa College. And Sir is not here, but still I have to speak about Sir. The most famous quote of Dr. Tharoor which touched me was, "India shaped my mind, anchored my identity, influenced my beliefs, and made me who I am. India matters to me, and I would like to matter to India." Such a love. Be with Dr. Tharoor in this afternoon to inaugurate the session of our 7-day program. And as he said, we should learn ourselves. Learning only can develop and improve ourselves. That's the spirit of Dr. Tharoor, the Sahitya Academy winner, whose book An Era of Darkness has sold more than 1 lakh copies. Every thought he produces, every thought, his action, everything makes a signature in front of us. And we are very much fortunate to have him and to listen to his enlightened speech, insightful speech on human rights, basic rights, and also how he said that what was the condition of the suppressed voices, and how we have to emerge out of that violated human rights. And he was very well mirroring out the present scenario happened in our own country and how women were unprotected during this. And also, I was always amazed by the impeccable vocabulary of Dr. Tharoor, and that only helps us, all the literature lovers, to read his books and waiting for more and more books from him to cherish for a lifetime. And a dream becomes a goal when action is taken towards its achievement. Yet this short term is a dream turned reality of IIC, Institutional Innovation Cell of Ayyappa, Council of Ayyappa College. And it is my proud privilege to thank Dr. Sridharan, Director of HRDC, Kannur University, Kerala, for all the kindness shown towards our team. Sir, actually, I was thinking of why should I run to Kannur for my short-term course, but I think that that was a great blessing on my part that I could reach Kannur and enjoy the kindness and meet the down-to-earth, so simple person, Dr. A.M. Sridharan. When I approached him to have a collaboration, he kindly accepted that, and I could say that for the past couple of months, Dr. Sridharan was literally running from head to heels to the Vice Chancellor and to us, and finally making our dream happen today, sir. Sir, words will not suffice to thank you for what you really were for that, and we will remain always grateful to you, and thank you for the help and magnanimity, sir. Our principal madam, who motivated us, or who is usually motivates all the other our staff to conduct such programs which will be helpful for the fraternity of teaching and learning, and also the one who is a pillar of support behind each individual faculty member to scale greatness in our career. Madam, I thank you for being with us, supporting us throughout our journey. Thank you, madam. Dr. K.V. Meena, the IQSC coordinator of our college. I am so grateful to you, madam, for the wonderful welcome address and helping us, supporting us to conduct this 7-day virtual program. Thank you, ma'am. It is Dr. Smita Nair, the president of IIC, and Dr. Uma, the secretary of IIC, who were instrumental in making us this event happen today. Thank you, Dr. Smita and Dr. Dr. Uma. And all my IIC family members, my own friends, all the coordinators of IIC. I am so happy that you are always shouldering the responsibility with us, left and right, being with us, encouraging us, motivating us, inspiring us, giving the energy we want to conduct this program. Thank you, my dear friends. Dear participants, I am enthralled by the overwhelming response of you all. It is your participation, interest, support that makes us humble. Keep supporting us. Hope you will carry cherishable and enriching memories and knowledge from the virtual portals of Sree Ayyappa College for Women. And we, all of us, raise our hearts in gratitude to thank the two Abhijits for the support, their technical support, patience, intelligence, and the hard works from a couple of months these two energetic guys render us. We acknowledge and thank you for the selfless service rendered by you, dear Abhijits. And let me conclude by wishing that each one of you will carry from back home, from this virtual portal, wonderful memories of this, and you will cherish for a long time to come. Keep supporting us and also be with us in the remaining 6 days. The program will be from 5 o'clock to 6:30 p.m. and you were shared with a unique ID and password. Please log into that and submit your feedback. It is mandatory for the attendance and certificate. And we will have very good enriching and enlightening sessions in the days to come. Thank you for all the response. Thank you for being with us. Keep supporting us. Stay home. happy learning. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you.
So, is it Meera?
Yes,
Shall
yes.
we conclude?
Yeah. We can.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we will conclude the meeting, and happy till then. We will meet you tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Okay. Thank you, dear participants.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.